Hey, it's Pam coming at you again today with some tips and tricks around bookkeepers. So, a question that I think a lot of people have, sometimes they ask it and sometimes they don't, is how do I even know if I have a good bookkeeper or not? Or if you're just starting out, how do I know how to get the right kind of bookkeeper? So, from the pages of Your First CFO, my book, I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And then just ask that you pass this on to anybody who might be an entrepreneur or small business owner who would get a kick out of knowing that finance can actually be fun and that there are tools and tips and tricks and processes we can set up to make sure it gets to be that way for as many entrepreneurs as I can manage to get to, which is the goal. So, just a quick reminder here at the beginning that my podcast, which is called Cash Flow, is going to launch on September 12th, which is really close, and I'm incredibly excited about it and would happily take anybody who'd be interested in getting on the launch team for that. We're working on a thank you gift for everybody right now as we speak who is on that launch team, and we'll be asking you to subscribe, and if you like it, leave a 5-star review and comments so that we can make sure that we keep bringing really pertinent content to you and to other business owners as we convince them that finance can be fun. So that's the goal. Also ask that you like my Facebook page if any of this is of interest to you, because all of these tips, tricks, tools are going to be accessible on that Facebook page as well. So just wanted to welcome you first before we talk about bookkeepers. And it's interesting because bookkeepers, for the most part, when we hire them in businesses, we hire them to generate whatever needs to be generated for our tax accountants. And bookkeepers do that remarkably well, and tax accountants know exactly how to ask for it, which is why bookkeepers do it remarkably well. What sometimes happens with business owners and entrepreneurs is they really don't know what to ask for. Not because they're not smart, but because they've never been through the process that helps them define what they need in place for the financial pillar of their business. So there's all this talk about financial pillar, and it's great, but what the heck does it mean? What do I really need to see? So, very simply put, there are a couple of statements, a couple of key metrics, and a conversation with your bookkeeper to make sure you've got the right one can make sure that we get those set up from the very beginning for you, which is such a huge step in getting comfortable with your finances and even getting towards finances fun. So just wanted to cover sort of a quick list of questions you can ask your bookkeeper. I will go ahead and make an infographic out of this so that you have access to it and really know, kind of have a cheat sheet you can go to and say, here are the things I need to ask my bookkeeper if I'm thinking of changing bookkeepers or hiring one. So just want to talk through it quickly. I've got a couple notes here to make sure I don't forget anything. But the first thing you really want to ask them is what kind of a bookkeeper they are. Are they just a one-person shop, and has hung out a shingle, and there's nothing wrong with that. I shouldn't have said just, but are they a one-person shop with a shingle and they handle multiple clients on their own? Or are they sort of a regional or small business concept where they have multiple bookkeepers involved? Or are they a national type-based company? And a lot of times those are 100% virtual companies. And each one of them has their advantages and disadvantages, and I talk about those in detail in the book. But the first thing you really want to understand is, what's the capacity of whoever you're dealing with? And the reason you want to understand that is because you want to know two things. One is how quickly each month will you get your financial reporting, right? And the second is how constrained you're going to be by inflexible models, so that sometimes with somebody who's just a single proprietor doing bookkeeping, they can be a lot more flexible around your needs, which is incredibly helpful, versus maybe a larger national type company, which also is more expensive, but also has, in addition to that, has really restrictive processes and systems in place. Doesn't let you maybe get some of the idiosyncrasies of your business covered really well. So that's question number one. What kind of a bookkeeping shop are they? Question number 2 is, when they build the financials for you, what questions will they ask you? And the really important thing here, that's how you ask that question. When you build the financial statements for me, what questions are you going to ask me? And the reason you want to ask that question is to see how they answer it. And if they answer it in a way that says, hey, we'll get your tax account and everything he needs, then you know you've got a particular bookkeeper who's really good at that. And we need bookkeepers who are good at that, but I'm going to suggest you need a bookkeeper that's good at more than that. If they start to ask you anything that leads you to believe they're trying to learn about how you think about your business, you may have just hit a gold mine, because that's what you want. You want a bookkeeper who's going to say to you, how do you think about your business? Do you have multiple products? Do you have different types of customers? Do you have different income streams? Do you have departments inside your business? Do you outsource? Do you have mostly employees? If they really, it's kind of like any job interview, right? You want the person who you're interviewing to show a really intelligent interest in what you need and how you need it. They may even ask you, do you know what kind of reports you want to see? Do you know what kind of statistics are important to you? And if you do have an answer, then they can create them. But if you don't have an answer, then what I would look for from them is hey, here's what I would suggest for you based on what you've said. So question number 1, what kind of a bookkeeper are you? Small, medium, large, virtual or on-site. And the second is, what kind of questions would you ask me about so that I can get the kind of reporting I need to really drill in on them and hope that they have a very active and interested conversation with you? If there's a quick answer to that question, or if there's if they don't ask you a bunch of questions about your perspective on your business, then that might be a yellow flag to say, I need to move on to a different bookkeeper. So that's the second thing. Third is, of course, the cost structure. How do you charge me? Do you charge me by the hour? Do you charge me a flat fee? If my business gets more complicated, will you charge me more? Or is it, just a flat fee, forever or until a certain period of time? So how are you going to charge me, and what are your costs? The fourth thing I would ask is, what day of the month can I expect my financial reporting? And this is something, not only do you want to ask it, but when you contract with the bookkeeper, make sure you get this in the contract, because this is something you really want to hold them to. And if you've listened to me at all before, you've heard me say every single company in the world can close their books and have financial reporting in as little as 5 days. And I actually happen to think that's generous. I think it can be done in 2, because I've done that in a number of places. I haven't done it. Teams I've worked with have done that in a number of places. But that said, bookkeepers have other clients and all sorts of things, so that it could be as late as workday number 5. A lot of people will accept up till the 15th. But I want to talk about that for a minute, not because you get your stuff faster, but a bookkeeper that says to you, I can have your books to you within 5 days, is a bookkeeper who really knows that spreading the work out during the month makes the most sense, and they're prioritizing and managing their time effectively. Because the way a lot of bookkeepers will talk about when you can get your books is they'll say to you, I can't start till after the end of the month, and so it's going to take me 15-20 days given all my other clients. The reality is that really good bookkeepers are keeping your books throughout the month, and there's very little to do at the end of the month. And that is a notion I've actually had to convince bookkeepers of, but it's a sign, if they're able to answer that question the right way, that they are up to speed on all the tools and tricks and tips and interfaces and equipment that's at their disposal to be a really good bookkeeper to you. And it also can help drive the cost down, because in a lot of cases those things indicate that they've found ways to maximize their own time efficiency. So that's just a really good hint. So the 4 that I'd really drive at as far as questions to ask a new bookkeeper or a replacement bookkeeper: what type of a bookkeeper are you? virtual, remote, small, medium, large. What I forget the order I did these in. But what questions would you ask me so that you can know you get my bookkeeping and my reporting correct? How much do you cost and how is it structured? And when will I get my monthly reports and financial statements? That's 4 questions. There are a ton more you can ask, but that's a good, healthy start on the first 4. And any bookkeeper that you want to have keeping the books for your business should be willing to spend a half an hour or an hour on a phone with you to talk through all of those questions, plus some others that I'm sure I'll get to on my next Facebook Live. But just wanted to give you something to think about. Hope you have a great day and continue to listen to tips from your first CFO and the Cash Flow Podcast. Reach out if there's anything I can do to help you. Take care. Bye-bye.